Will you show us how you had your hands?
I had them up like this.
Can you tell us why you had your hands up close to your neck?
Because I saw what he did to Katie and I was scared he was going to do it to me.
Krystal Surles lived in Kansas with her family. In December 1999, her family sent her to spend some time with their close family friends, the Harris family, who lived in Del Rio, a quiet, rural town in Texas. The Harris family, consisting of Terry and Kayleen Harris and their 5 children, were known for their hospitality and strong sense of community. They welcomed Krystal with open arms, and she became fast friends with their 13-year-old daughter, Kayleen. Del Rio was a safe and peaceful town, the kind of place where doors were often left unlocked and neighbors trusted one another. No one could have imagined that danger was lurking in the form of a violent and disturbed man, Tommy Lynn Sells, who had been drifting through the country, leaving a trail of bloodshed behind him. Tommy Lynn Sells was a drifter and a career criminal. On the night of December 31st, 1999, Krystal and Kayleen Harris were at the Harris family home, preparing to celebrate New Year's Eve. The 2 girls had become inseparable during Krystal's visit, spending hours together playing and chatting. That night, they fell asleep together in Kayleen's bedroom, unaware of the horror that was about to unfold. Sometime during the early hours of January 1st, 2000, Tommy Lynn Sells, who had been lurking in the area, broke into the Harris home. Armed with a knife, Sells had no specific target in mind. He had chosen the Harris family at random, driven by his compulsion to kill. Sells quietly entered the house and made his way to Kayleen's bedroom. There, he saw the 2 girls sleeping soundly. Without hesitation, he approached them, his knife ready.
Went to bed kind of late, but I remember I woke up to like a scream, had a hand on her mouth and the knife on her neck, and she's looking at me.
In a sudden, vicious attack, Sells slashed Kayleen's throat, killing her instantly. Blood soaked the bed as Krystal awoke to the horrifying sight of her best friend's lifeless body beside her.
Katie, at the bottom of the bed on the floor, she was like gasping for air and choking. She couldn't breathe.
Sells then turned his attention to Krystal. In an attempt to silence her, he slashed her throat as well, leaving her for dead. Believing both girls to be dead,
I was trying to scoot to the right side of the bed because he was on the left. He just reached over and cut my throat like this.
Sells fled the scene, disappearing into the night as quickly as he had come. Despite the deep, life-threatening wound to her throat, Krystal Surles was not dead. Incredibly, she had survived the brutal attack. Blood poured from the wound, and she could barely breathe, but her will to live was stronger than the pain.
Just remember laying there and the light turning off and I heard the door shut. So I got on my hands and knees and I was crawling across the floor in the bedroom and I came across Katie. She was kind of making a gasping noise, or maybe she was choking. But then I was trying to comfort her. I laid next to her, rubbing her back, and that's when I realized I couldn't talk because all I wanted to say was everything's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be okay. Just remember, like.
Krystal realized that if she didn't act quickly, Sells might return, or worse, he might target the rest of the Harris family. With unimaginable strength and determination, Krystal got out of bed and staggered through the house. She knew she had to find help, but her voice was gone, and she was losing blood rapidly.
Dark outside, I was in my pajamas, no shoes, nothing. I saw a light in the distance. I was like, that's my goal. That's where I need to be. I just got on the road and walked really slow to that light. Really, all I could think about was, just get to this house, just get to this house, just get to this house. And I just banged on their door and I hear a gentleman, he's like, who's there, who's there? And I can't talk, so I'm just banging as hard as I can on the door.
I have a little girl just rang my doorbell.
The neighbor was startled to see the bloodied little girl on their doorstep and immediately called 911. Emergency responders arrived quickly, and Krystal was rushed to the hospital. Her injuries were severe, and doctors worked tirelessly to save her life. Krystal's throat had been deeply slashed, and her vocal cords were damaged, but miraculously, she survived the attack. As Krystal lay in her hospital bed, recovering from the horrific ordeal, investigators were eager to hear her story.
When I got in her room, I saw this little girl with all of these tubes She looked like this baby in this humongous bed. And I looked her in her eyes and I said, "Are you okay, Angel? Mommy's here."
Though she could not speak due to her injuries, Krystal was able to communicate by writing on a notepad. Incredibly, despite the trauma she had endured, Krystal's mind was sharp, and she remembered every detail of the attack. She described the man who had broken into the house, the brutal murder of her friend, and how she had survived the attempt on her own life. Krystal's descriptions of her attacker were clear and detailed. She provided law enforcement with enough information to create a composite sketch of the man who had attacked her and killed Kayleen. The sketch was circulated widely, and soon after, law enforcement received a tip that led them to Tommy Lynn Sells.
I explained to Krystal, I told Krystal, we have a photo lineup, and if you see the man that was in that residence that did this to y'all, please put your finger on it. You could see her eyes moving from one individual photograph to the next and focused in on one photograph. And Krystal took her right index finger and put it on the photograph of Tommy Lynn Sells.
Sells was arrested on January 2nd, 2000, just days after the attack. He was quickly connected to the crime scene through forensic evidence, including DNA found at the Harris home. When confronted with the evidence and Krystal's testimony, Sells eventually confessed to the attack, as well as to a string of other murders he had committed over the years. After his arrest, Tommy Lynn Sells admitted to the brutal attack on Krystal and Kayleen.
You doing this walkthrough of your own free will? Oh, yeah.
I thought this to be very odd. Here this guy is under arrest for murder and attempted murder, and his wanted to cooperate with us.
I walked over here.
Woke this girl up, and she jumped up and told this girl to go get her mom. I stabbed her here, and then she jumped back, and then
His confession was cold and emotionless, typical of the callous nature he had displayed throughout his criminal career. But Sells did not stop there. He also began confessing to other murders, claiming responsibility for as many as 70 deaths across the United States.
This is 2 females, and it happened in 91, close to Cabin Creek.
We have confirmed that he has committed 22 total murders.
That's when I realized we were dealing with a serial killer, a cold-blooded serial killer.
Krystal, still recovering from her injuries, testified against Sells in court, her bravery on full display. Though her voice was weak due to the damage to her vocal cords, her testimony was powerful and convincing.
What was it that awakened you?
Katie's voice saying help. His hand was over her mouth.
Whose hand was over her mouth?
His hand.
The man with the blue jacket and the glasses?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Tommy Lynn Sells.
He was standing behind her with his hand over her mouth, the knife right here. Katie was, okay. He was,
In 2000, Tommy Lynn Sells was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death.
Tommy Lynn Sells have been found guilty of the offense of capital murder.
They decided to give Tommy Lynn Sells the death penalty.
Krystal Surles' survival is nothing short of miraculous. Despite the deep emotional and physical scars left by the attack, she has shown incredible resilience and strength throughout her life.